Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Sean Campbell. We warmly welcome the family of Private Edward James Tapsall, who are watching the live stream of this ceremony. His story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Thank you. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Edward James Tapsall. Edward James Tapsall was born in 1891 to William and Sarah Tapsall at Kumina near Esk in Queensland. Known as Teddy to friends and family, Edward was the youngest of 9 children born into the family. After leaving school, he worked as a horse trainer in Kumina. In February 1916, Teddy Tapsall enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force at Enoggera Army Camp outside of Brisbane. He joined the 31st Battalion and trained in Australia for 6 months. In August, he sailed from Brisbane on board the transport ship Barara, arriving in England in mid-October. In England, he completed further training before sailing to France in January of 1917. When Tapsall joined his battalion in the field, it was emerging from an extremely severe winter. As the ground thawed, the trenches flooded and filled with mud. 6 weeks after arriving, Tapsall had developed trench foot, a serious medical condition that came from having constantly damp feet. He recovered in hospital until the beginning of April. During the summer of 1917, the 31st Battalion acted in support of Australian actions at Bullecourt. In September 1917, the unit took part in the British campaign to push the German forces out of Belgium Flanders. These battles are now known collectively as the Third Battle of Ypres. Tapsall and his battalion took part in the second major battle of this campaign, the Battle of Polygon Wood. On the second day of the battle, the 27th of September 1917, Tapsall was killed in action. He was 25 years old. Buried near where he fell in the vicinity of Polygon Wood, the location of his grave was lost during later fighting, and today he is commemorated on the Menin Gate Memorial in Ypres. His name sits alongside those of 55,000 Commonwealth troops who died in the Ypres sector and have no known grave. While Tapsall's parents had died before the war began, he was remembered in Australia by his siblings and families. His brothers and sisters had the following poem printed in a local newspaper. He answered his country's call and now has gone before. He rests within a soldier's grave, far from his native shore. Edward was not the only Tapsall brother to fight in the Australian Imperial Force. His brother, Private Norman Charles Tapsall, joined the Light Horse in 1916 and was wounded at the Battle of Magdabar in the Sinai Desert. Norman returned to Australia in 1919. Private Edward James Tapsall is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right among the 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his name listed on the Menin Gate Memorial is displayed by the Pool of Reflection. This is one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Edward James Tapsall, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorials Development Project. And we wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.